Yeah. Let me ask you this before we close up. We have about 6 minutes, give or take. I want to get your take on the ceasefire deal for Israel, the quote unquote ceasefire. And, Witkoff, I believe his name, goes over there, basically reads right out in a very salty language. In order to get the deal, it was the deal that was on the table for the last year that nobody moved on because Joe Biden wasn't really pushing for any kind of deal at all behind the scenes. We're finding out. But Trump gets the ceasefire. Trump is asked whether or not he thinks the ceasefire is going to last. He was like, I'm not sure. This isn't my war. It's not, this isn't really any of my business. So Netanyahu, who is dealing with many in Israel being pissed off that he accepted this deal, or at the very least was pushed into this deal, came out and he said this, and I want to get your take on it. Because according to Netanyahu, Donald Trump, and for that matter, Joe Biden, made the deal that they can reinvigorate the war at any moment, meaning at any time that they want, they can resume the war. And I want to get your take on this comment. If I can get this, it's going to be too loud. There we are.
Was elected, Trump was completely committed to the release of the hostages. We spoke on Wednesday. He congratulated me on the agreement, and he emphasized, and rightly so, that the first stage is a temporary ceasefire. This is what he said, a temporary ceasefire. Towards the next stages of the agreement, we are holding on to some significant assets so that we can bring back all of the hostages, and in order to accomplish all the goals of the war. Both President Trump and President Biden have provided full backing to Israel's right to resume fighting, to resume combat, if Israel reaches the conclusion that the negotiations over the second stage are pointless. I truly appreciate that. I also appreciate the decision of President Trump to lift all the remaining restrictions on the providing of essential.
I have a hard time listening to him, if I'm being honest. Give me your take on this. I mean, do you give any real validity to the ceasefire? Do you think there's any lasting quality to it? I mean, when I was listening to Steve, the guy who went over there, Witkoff, or I may be getting the name wrong, he sounded like he was serious about, on some level, pushing this deal through. Is this bluster by Netanyahu, or no? This is the reality of events, where this is a temporary ceasefire. They're going to go back to operations the moment that they get their hostages back. What are your thoughts? And we have about 4 minutes.
I mean, have you ever watched a coach of a losing team try and explain how he won the game, even though he didn't win the game? We had a solid blocking, and we had this, and we've got future depth and all that. That's Netanyahu. It's pure spin. There's no doubt in my mind that Trump told Netanyahu that if Hamas violates this, that Israel can go back in. There's no doubt in my mind he said it, but it's not any time Israel wants to, and this. No, Trump. Let me tell you why this is a real ceasefire. Because Trump's a strategic thinker in the Middle East. See, this ceasefire solves the problem of the Houthi. It solves the problem of Hezbollah, because both Hezbollah and the Houthis' engagement with Israel was because of the refusal of Israel to have a ceasefire. Okay, that ceasefire is in place. It also takes Iran out of the picture. See, Trump isn't looking for a broader conflict in the Middle East. He's looking to end the conflict in the Middle East. And to do that, he has to be able to negotiate with Iran, because he wants to negotiate with Iran. We know he wants to negotiate with Iran. He wants a better nuclear deal. That's his strategic focus, and he's not going to let Benjamin Netanyahu screw this up for him. So Netanyahu can spin this any way he wants. And if Hamas wants to violate this, but I don't know, did you look at the videos that came out of Gaza
Yes.
of the defeated Hamas? I mean, man, they look tough, because they were all beat up and they had the white flags and they were bleeding. Their uniforms were ripped up and their weapons were, oh no, they looked like they were well fed, and they were stuffed, that studs with the green headbands, and they were running around. That wasn't a defeated military, guys. That's a victorious military that took on one of the world's largest, most sophisticated, Western militaries and fought them to a standstill. Hamas was supposed to have been physically destroyed by Israel. That wasn't a physically destroyed fighting force. And you also have to remember, in the lead up to the ceasefire, Israel was taking very heavy casualties in Gaza. The Israeli army does not want to go back to Gaza. That would be a disaster for them. So I think you're going to see that there isn't going to be violation. We're seeing that, Israel has been given sort of a green light to go into the West Bank to clean up
Yes.
issues there. That's separate. But Gaza itself, I think you're going to see, is going to get into the business of reconstruction, rebuilding, etc. It's not a perfect solution, but I don't see this as being a game by Trump. I think Trump is serious about a ceasefire because it anchors what he wants to do strategically in the region. And I think Trump is going to hold Netanyahu's feet to the fire. And I think Hamas understands that as long as they, do what they've committed to do, and I think they're serious about doing that, they come out stronger. Hamas is not politically destroyed; they're not militarily defeated. And Hamas is basically the driving force behind the Palestinian movement today. On October 6th, Hamas was fading fast, being isolated, pushed to the side, forgotten. Completely different reality today. Tragically, it had to take, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Palestinian lives to make this happen. But I think you're going to see that Gaza will never again be an open-air prison camp. That Gaza is going to be rebuilt in the vision of the Palestinians of Gaza, and it's going to be part of a new approach towards the creation of a Palestinian state that now the world, because the other thing that's changed is the world's opinion of Israel has changed because Israel has been exposed as a genocidal state. So I think that, this isn't 100%. Nobody trusts Israel. I don't trust Israel. And, but I do think we need to understand that Trump isn't the compliant tool of Zionism that everybody thought he was. That Trump has a vision that benefits the United States of America first, and that vision is peace. He needs to have stability in the Middle East so that he can redirect his attention elsewhere, and that stability can't happen unless there's a ceasefire that holds in Gaza.
From your mouth to God's ears, Scott. Man, thank you for this, Scott. Really appreciate you, man. Always appreciate talking to you. Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector and weapons of mass destruction whistleblower. You can follow Scott on Telegram at Scott Ritter. Thank you for this, Scott. Always, like I said, I always appreciate talking to you, man. I really like your point of view. Have a good one, man. All right. I would like to go to my next guest.